Well, we are here. We are live today, and I say we because I have a very special guest with us today. We are all blessed enough to have Paul from Understanding Conspiracy has graced us with his presence. So, welcome to the live stream, Paul. Oh, he's not there. What happened to Paul? Did he just get raptured out of here and he didn't tell me? I hope not. I hope I didn't miss it. I hope we didn't get left behind. You know, while we're waiting on Paul, let's continue with the tradition of starting with some prayer because we all need the Lord's blessings here. So let's just bow our heads, and like I said, if you can bow your heads, please do. If you cannot, keep your eyes on the road or whatever you're doing. But Heavenly Father, Lord, we come before you humbly, Lord, to your throne, and we ask you for your blessing upon this evening, upon this live stream, upon the words that come out of my mouth. And I just pray for seeds to be planted, seeds to be watered, and we pray for, above all, Lord, that you're glorified with whatever we're doing here tonight. And we ask these things in the name of your Son, Jesus Christ. Amen. Okay, is Paul back? Paul has been he's been raptured, I think, maybe. But I will continue on without Paul because this is going to be a solo stream. But so while we're here, let's talk about some things. This is the first time I've gone live in about 2 weeks. You guys know the last time I went live, I was joined with Jen from Meltology 101-01, and that was an interesting stream. I love the topic of Meltology. That was fun, right? What do you guys think about that? You know, I want to give her credit. There was a really interesting video that one of the things that she said really stuck with me, and I want to give her credit for this video, and maybe I'll share it with you guys real fast. Is that I made a short video because one thing that she said really stuck with me, or one thing that she showed me, I thought this was really cool. So, do you guys want to see? You want to see a video real quick? Let's talk. She mentioned something specifically about the Tower of Babel, or like more specifically, the depiction of the Tower of Babel from the Peter Bruegel painting from the 16th century. So I made a reel because I started to really think about that. I actually really like that connection. So check this out. Let me see. I need to fix this. Sorry, so you guys can see the whole thing. Okay.
Let's talk more about Meltology. This time I want to show you guys something. Check out this painting from Peter Bruegel from the 16th century. It's of the Tower of Babel. The design is very interesting. Take a close look at it. What do you think that building would look like if it was, I don't know, melted by the wrath of God? Is it...
Oh, we're getting some freeze action here. Come on. Okay, let's start that back over.
Building would look like if it was, I don't know, melted by the wrath of God? Is it possible it would look like this place in Cappadocia, Turkey? So what we're told is that people carved into this quote-unquote mountain to create dwelling places. But what if it was once a building, or maybe even a tower, that was melted by the wrath of God? And what's significant about Cappadocia, it's actually mentioned in the Epistle of Peter. And Turkey is where all 7 churches from the book of Revelation were. And I put the emphasis on were because they are no longer there. Is it possible that all these things are related? What do you guys think?
So what do you guys think? Do you guys think that all those things are related? I mean, I'm not saying specifically that mountain or, melted mountain or building in Cappadocia was the Tower of Babel. But truth be told, we do not really know where the biblical locations are for sure. I mean, we're told where they are, and we're told that where the Tower of Babel would have been like modern day Iraq. But it's really not that far from Turkey, and there is a lot of smoke around the significance of that place, being that the seven churches of Revelation are from there. Cappadocia is mentioned in the Bible. What do you guys think? And Paul's still not here. I hope Paul's okay. we literally were just chatting before we went on here, and now he's gone. But it's funny. I've been teasing this, and obviously we'll get to the Lego presentation, but I want to wait for Paul to get here because I think that the Lego stuff I think he had a lot to say about it. Is Paul, you here? Paul. But in the meantime, let's talk about what's going on. So again, I really appreciate you guys for supporting me on Patreon. Yesterday, I released the most recent JT's Mixtape, episode number 40 is up on my Patreon. Uncensored and early, so it's two good things involved in that. And yes, that I'm excited about that. You know, I was struggling a little bit being on vacation, not being able to film like I wanted to, and I just thought I would just take the week off, but I felt like I was really pressed when I got back to kind of still keep everything consistent. He's feeding the baby, but still listening. Okay. All right. Well, we'll wait for Paul. We can still chat. Maybe we can do some Q&A first, because I was gonna let Paul help me with the Q&A, but we can do some Q&A before, since I can queue that up, and I can answer some questions in the meantime. I think we live in biblical lands. Could be, sure. Okay, let's go down and let's do a screen share, and we can see if Paul makes it back to us. Okay, so I'm going to pull up my questions here, and we're going to go in order. Maybe we'll miss Paul. We'll see when he comes back now, because at least we got his the understanding conspiracy cam going. Okay, wait, Paul's. I see some movement. There's Paul.
Hey, how we doing?
Good, man. Welcome, Paul. I introduced you, and then I was like, wait a minute. He was raptured, and we've been left behind.
Yeah, sorry. I'm here now. I'm here. All good.
Well, always a pleasure, brother, having you come on the podcast. What's been going on with you? You got anything to promote? I think you just released your book in audio form, right?
Yes. So I've been kind of going back to my roots on my channel and kind of going back to my Nephilim Look Like Clowns series, which obviously I ran from 2016 to about 2023. And I kind of took like a year break after publishing the book from working on the video series. And I've just been promoting the first book, the Nephilim Look Like Clowns Volume 1, the history. I'm halfway through writing the second book, but I kind of realized like the first book needed like a second comb through just to perfect it in a way. Little errors here and there I kept noticing, which were kind of niggling at the back of my mind. So I decided the best way to do that would be just to read it out loud to hear where it doesn't sound quite right, and then make an audiobook while I'm at it. So that's what I did. I read the whole book. It's 11 and a half hours, and the second edition of Volume 1 is now out because it was edited through that process. So now, yeah, the first book now has an audiobook available on Audible. It just got approved through the quality assurance 2 days ago. And I did a giveaway yesterday on my own live Q&A. I did a quick, because they give you 50 promo codes to just give to people for free to like get reviews and stuff. So I gave 3 away yesterday, and we had a bit of a fun thing for that. And yeah, so the audiobook's available for the Nephilim Look Like Clowns. There we go.
That's excellent. You know, because I don't read as many like physical books as I used to, but I do like to listen to them because I think that's something that is convenient for people when they're driving and things like that, and cutting the grass or doing housework, just having it on the background. So I would say that that's probably going to be a good seller, right? Because I think that that's how I like to consume a lot of the books that I quote unquote read.
Yeah, we'll see. I don't know if it's going to sell or not. It's just there as an option now, to be honest, because I know like people like having choice. And yeah, I know this day and age, people don't read as much as they like to listen to things. Even I prefer to listen to an audiobook than actually read something half the time, you know. So it just kind of felt like necessary in this day and age to make an audiobook. So I did, you know. And I realized when I do the second book, I'm going to do the same thing before I publish that. So there'll just be 2 audiobooks ready for the combined version at the end. And what I've done as well is I've rebooted the old series, the old Nephilim Like Clown series, and I got up to 44 episodes last time. And I've kind of done episode 45 after a year on the Royal Order of the Jesters. And that's actually a passage from the book, half an hour reading of the book with images added in for that episode, just to kind of give that a promotion as well. And that video has gone semi-viral already. It's already on about 12,000, 13,000 views in just a few days. So that's doing quite well. And and people are responding quite well to that. So I'm probably going to keep going with that series because there's more to show and more to say with it. And as I'm writing the second book, there's kind of like new things I'm uncovering as I go along, which I haven't publicly talked about yet. So yeah, they're kind of in the pipelines as well. So that's what what my project is right now. I'm trying to, I suppose, finalize and finish off my primary body of work, if you get what I mean. The thing that I started in 2016, I need to finish it in a sense. So yeah, that's what I've been doing.
Yeah, it's a lot easier to start things than to finish them. I've learned over the years, especially when you're making content and the ideas I have that I want to do. And that actually is that kind of trips me up from starting certain projects now, because I know I've heard people, especially after I did that podcast with Josh talking about John Pounder's, I wouldn't call it a debunking of the little season. I would say that he had little season reservations. And a lot of people in the comments enjoyed that video, but they were saying, JT, you know what would really be helpful? If you made that video that you've teased for about a year, to say that you're going to make a condensed, short form little season video. I'm like, yeah, that probably would be a good idea, but I just have not done it yet. And I guess it's it because I haven't even started it, but I probably should.
It's the content creators kind of like curse. Like we have all these ideas, but then we also kind of have like a schedule we have to stick to. I post, for example, 2 live shows a week, and then maybe 1 extra video on a Friday in between those live shows, and even then maybe a 4th video if I have time. And just to stick to that schedule alone actually takes up a lot of time. Like it's very time consuming because you've got to pre-plan the shows, the subject matters you're going to discuss, and do the shows, and then afterwards you've got to re-download them, edit them, upload them to podcast format after that as well. And then you've got to work on the next video you're going to actually make, which takes time to edit a video and make it something substantial. And it's kind of, before you know it, the week's over and the next live shows come, and it's kind of, when do I have time to do these crazy projects I've got kind of lined up over here? And you do have to really make the time. It's actually a lot harder than you think. And like I said, I'm trying to write a book in between all of this, and I've just got to squeeze a paragraph here and a chapter there whenever I can, whenever it's just the opportunity arises. So I empathize. I'm not surprised if you haven't made the condensed version, because people don't realize it might be a short condensed video, but to make it condensed and short and concise will take days, if not weeks of work to finalize it, refine it, say it right, and get the images to back it up. It's actually a really lengthy process. So I empathize with you, even if they don't, I get it.
100%. Yeah, that's the whole thing with it, is that, I said, I keep teasing this, and of course I'm being teased by this, that I've been saying that I'm pretty close to doing this full time, and I pray that when that day comes, these other projects will be more accessible, because trying to fit in the JT's mixtape that's an every week thing, and then when I can, there's also a live stream every week, and then I'm recording with Brian, and now I'm recording with Josh like weekly. So trying to get all that stuff recorded and edited every week, it does not leave a lot of time. And of course, you guys know, if you follow me on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, that I also promote those podcasts by making short reels out of them. So yeah, one day. But enough about the how the sausage is made. Paul, did you get a chance to watch any of the video about John Pounder's video?
I'm afraid not. No, it's kind of a life I've left behind when it comes to that kind of topic. So I'm a bit behind on it. But people in my Telegram have kind of been posting every time a random debunking video turns up. I'm aware of it. I'm always aware of them. And I know about Now You See TV. I've followed them for years, and not so much these days, but back in the day when I first kind of woke up, they were around then, So it's kind of, I've been following them for a long time, at least 8 years, I wasn't surprised at the first time they kind of said, nope, this isn't right, and I think John of the two seems like the more open-minded one from what I gathered. He seems like the more open to discussion, kind of light-hearted one, not as dogmatic. So when I saw he did one, I assumed it'd be quite well read. He's a brother in Christ. At the end of the day, he's definitely on fire for the Lord. I don't have any doubt about that whatsoever. But I imagined his arguments were the same thing I heard ad nauseum months ago, just the same thing repeated over and over again. So I didn't feel like I had to watch it necessarily. I didn't feel like they'd bring anything new. And people kind of give me an abridged version of what he said in my own Telegram as well. So when I saw you be doing one, I figured, yeah, well, he's probably JT's got this in the bag. I'm sure it's fine. But catch me up. What happened? I'm interested to hear.
Yeah, well, it was actually not like the other ones, which I said was actually a bit of a fresh air. He was kind of more trying to say that, like, his general premise was that we take kind of the accounts from Josephus and the supernatural things that he talked about, such as like the soldiers in the clouds, the heifer giving birth to a lamb in the temple opening up, the temple doors opening up. There was a light around the altar. Was the other thing like the star that rested over Jerusalem that resembled a star? And then he was kind of talking about some of the accounts from the Jewish-Roman War. So he actually, I was kind of pleasantly surprised that he at least, even if he's not fully on board, and that's literally what he says, is like that he wasn't debunking it. He was just saying he's not there yet. He's got reasons why he's got reservations about that. Thank you, Scott Hilmer. Thank you so much. Yeah, he's got reservations about why he's not fully on board. And I think hopefully that our video is not like too argumentative. We're like really trying to say, like, so if you aren't on board because of this, Josh and I gave answers on why maybe like you might be a little confused about why we believe certain things, because he was talking about the events in Matthew 24 and also Josephus, and he was saying that, well, this does not correlate with the bowls of wrath and the trumpets from the book of Revelation. And we clarified to say, no, this is specifically, we believe that Josephus is writing about the judgment on the whore of Babylon, which is Jerusalem. And then, so his perspective is Jerusalem and the Romans at this certain time. So the whore gets judged first, gets made desolate, naked, burned with fire, devoured by the beast. That happens first. And then, so we don't have accounts that are as clear about the judgment on Rome. So yes, the Josephus account is part of why we believe, but it's not the crux of what we believe. I mean, obviously the crux of what we believe is that we believe Jesus. And so the things he said was going to happen, happened in that generation. And then obviously the things that happened to the Empire of Rome, yeah, they're not clear in history because that's the history that is nice and foggy. And so we did point him a little bit to the stream we did together about Gunnar Heinsohn. So we would say this is why we believe that some of these trumpet bowl wraths did happen, but they are, the timeline is confused.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think this is what I noticed is a lot of these debunkers that they're very confused about why we believe what we believe, and they kind of clutch at things that maybe we said in passing once, or maybe we don't hold our entire theory on it necessarily, but they would take that and say, this is why you're wrong, because this can't be the case because of this one nitpicky thing. But fundamentally, like you said, the only reason any of us took this seriously and still take it seriously is because it's the words of Christ himself. And it comes down to either he was lying or he was telling the truth. And he meant what he said when he said it. Like the red letters themselves are quite clear. He was coming back quickly in that time. So we have to take him at his word and work backwards from there. And like I said, the Gunnar Heinsohn presentation was just a perfect example of how there are precedents to say something akin to a tribulation-style destruction event did happen in our past. But it's like I said, the timeline's wrong. We've just been lied to about when specifically. And then this is kind of the thing. We as well, we tend to be, we're willing to question and throw out the historical narrative where we've been told what dates have been set. We're not saying things didn't happen. We're saying when they told us they happened, didn't happen. And this is where I think the line gets blurred with a lot of these people, because they actually do believe the historical record and have gone off the official 2,000-year timeline. And they say, you can't be right because Revelation was written in 97 or something like this. And it's kind of, they have all these ideas in their head, and it's kind of that our established mainstream history. and they're trying to fit the Bible to mainstream history. What we're doing is the opposite. We're saying mainstream history does not match up with what the Bible said, and we're going to go from that, and we're going to move on with that first. And I think that's what confuses them. I think that's where the disconnect happens from what I've kind of observed, and that's the issue primarily. But like I said earlier, that's not my fight. Like, I think I've done enough. I've presented as much as I can for as long as I could. I've laid it out as clear as I can, and I think there are now like a rising movement of new people who are interested in this idea, who probably doing far greater things than we did when we first kind of got on this, to be honest. I think a fire's been lit, and it's going to be interesting to see how far it spreads. That's kind of what I'm doing right now.
Yeah, 100%. Well, that's the fun part for me, is because, obviously I have my regular podcast with Brian, and we're not talking about it unless something new comes to our attention. Because what else am I going to say? Like, we do have lots of things. Again, we could do a condensed version that might be helpful to people, but we haven't done that. But other than that, when things pop up that interest us, that's when we talk about it. But now I've been collaborating with Josh Truex from Modern Roots Life, and we're doing the Ancient Roots of Life podcast. He's texting me all the time now. Did you see this video? Did you see this video? And most times when people DM me and they say, hey, so-and-so debunked the little season. Do you want to give a rebuttal to that? And I'm like, no, I don't, actually. It's not. I was like, first of all, that video is really long. I don't even think I want to watch it. Secondly, I think at some point, it's the people who like those content creators who debunk the little season, and when you watch any part of the video, again, I feel like that they're taking stuff out of context. They're nitpicking, or they're straw manning. And when the people are saying, hey man, this is such a good study, blah, 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 I'm like, I'm not changing in those people's minds. And then so for the people who are in this audience, I don't need to reaffirm what they already believe. So I guess to me, it's like if they brought a good argument, then maybe I would feel challenged to seek it out and to research it and to listen to it. But most of these people are the same people saying that the rapture is coming any day now. And this podcast, actually, I kind of enjoyed it because it did give me a point to hammer home about the Whore of Babylon, is that it mentions in the book of Revelation that the place that the Gentiles are going to trample on is the great city where the Lord was crucified. And then later in, I think, Revelation, the end of Revelation chapter 17, I believe, it mentions that woman that you saw is the great city. So the harlot and the great city are the same. So that's the place where the Lord was crucified. So yes, that is Jerusalem. So if you really think about it, if Jerusalem was destroyed and burned with fire and the temple was destroyed in that time, then you have to say that the book of Revelation, at least parts of it, are in the past now. So I would say that I think that gave us a good opportunity to kind of share about, yes, the worldwide judgment is harder to pin down because, of course, if the whole world was wrecked, maybe that would be why the amount of history and books you could read about it would be lacking. In the same way that we always poke fun at that if you want history about this, why don't you produce the recipe for Roman concrete? How did Roman knowledge ever get lost? Because there was a catastrophe on the level of the book of Revelation, and that's why.
It's the same way the NASA technology got lost for the to get to the moon, I assume. Just pure stupid humanitarian ignorance. I can't really just idiocy. Like, whoops, we lost it. Yeah, it's got to be that, right?
Yeah, the Roman concrete recipe is we had to destroy it, and then it's too much trouble.
It's just too much trouble to figure it out again, so we just didn't bother. Yeah, I'm sure that's what happened.
Well, anyways, guys, do you guys want to talk about the Lego movie? You guys down for, Paul, you ready to discuss the Lego movie?
Sure, why not? And
yeah, so guys, this is a live show, so this is not one of my slick videos, so bear with us as we try to look at this. But Paul says he's seen the movie, so I'm gonna give you kind of a brief overview if you guys have not seen this. For one, I would say that I watch a lot of movies, and I got kids, so I've watched a lot of kids movies as well. Out of all the kids movies I've watched, the Lego movie is probably one of the more enjoyable movies I've watched, but it's not without its gnostic themes. So, of course, if you look on this picture, we got the main protagonist. This is Chris Pratt. Emmett is the main character. Then we got Wildstyle, who later we find out what her real name is. She's got many names. Batman, and there behind this is Lord Business. He's also called President Business, and he's played by Will Ferrell. And then we got over here, this is Vitruvius, and this is Morgan Freeman. And so it's a fun movie. It's, it's about that Emmett is the special, and he's trying to prevent, I guess, their end of their world by this guy over here. The Lord Business is going to, he doesn't like them being free to do whatever they want to. And so that's kind of your brief overview. But if I want to go into, I took some screenshots, and it's unfortunate that there are copyright laws. Otherwise, I'd play the movie for you and I'd play the parts. But I thought about trying to record some of it, but I thought there's no way the Lego movie, any parts of it would be flagged in a second. What do you think, Paul?
Yeah, you got no chance. I wouldn't risk it. I wouldn't risk it at all. In terms of like initially, I think I saw this movie years ago when it came out. I remember I watched the second one not long ago as well when it came out. And the first thing I noticed is it's very much of a you are kind of like, it's like a Neo in the Matrix situation. You unlock your hidden potential to become like a god, and you can manipulate reality to be whatever you want it to be type of situation. So I got the gnostic undercurrents immediately, and that's kind of what I took away from it when I first watched it. And it has some funny moments. It's a fun family film in between as well. It has it, but underlying it all, they have to sneak it in, don't they? They're going to sneak that Luciferian doctrine in there somewhere, and it was definitely kind of subtly there. And what you preliminary showed me earlier, I think maybe it was a bit more on the nose than I first realized. Yeah, maybe we should get into it.
Yeah. So that was what Paul said was what I first noticed when I woke up. I was like, "Whoa, this is a Gnostic movie," because Lord Business here is, real hard to figure out who the Lord is. So Lord Business is an avatar for a man, because obviously Legos are built and played with by people. So there's this being that's outside of this place, and he's the bad one, but he's got his own little avatar in the world, which is kind of like they literally call him, and I'll show you some slides later, but they literally call Will Ferrell, because he's both the actors in here, and he's obviously the voice actor of this little avatar, Lord Business. And so they literally call him in the thing, the man upstairs. And so the man upstairs is the one he's got a world of order and rules. And so I think what I really started to make the connections with early on was that, like, Emmett is a rule follower, and he has the instructions. And so what these other characters here, these are the one thing they all have in common besides Emmett is that they're master builders. And the master builders go outside the rules, and they disregard the instructions. So I started to think, what if the instructions were, I don't know, the Bible? And so I started to make the connections like that. This is you should be able to do whatever you want. You should be able to play outside the rules and the instructions, build whatever you want. This world is beautiful when it's a mess. That's kind of what the movie's about. So I thought, okay, so that's really a clear picture. God's the bad guy. This character right here, Wildstyle, later it's revealed in the movie that her real name is Lucy. And she's basically kind of the person pushing Emmett into doing all the things, rebelling against the man upstairs. Lucy, Lucifer, there you go. But let's go into the presentation, because I was saying I took some screenshots, and of course, this is the stuff that I was not aware of because I had not looked into the little season at all. And I thought this was pretty interesting. So I'm going to go, again, we're going to go slide by slide, and then we'll kind of discuss it a little bit. I was just breaking it down to Paul. Okay, so Lucy is telling Emmett that there was a time where the Lego world was connected, and they could go anywhere they wanted to. But then it said, Lord Business, he erected walls between the worlds. So there you see, you got a nice barbed wire, razor wire wall. And I kind of wonder if that's like is it possible they're talking about the ice wall, Paul? Do you think they could be talking about that the lands beyond?
Or they're talking about a time when Rome ruled the entire earth and it was all one system, the beast system, and then Christ came to establish his reign and divide it apart and make it his own kingdom where people could have individuality rather than homogeny, perhaps.
That's a good interpretation too, because that the countries were divided up. The beast was broken, right? And so these walls could be metaphorical, like borders.
Yeah,
because it does have visions of like the Berlin Wall, right?
Well, even the UN and the New World Order is all about a borderless world where everything is one society, one civilization, one currency, one leader, one religion, one language, a world without borders, So to say anybody who would dare erect a border, which is what kingdoms do, essentially, is bad. Borders are bad type of ideology. So really this aligns quite well with indoctrinating the youth into believing that a borderless world is the best kind of world. So there's that as well. Again, but I think if Christ did come, then he definitely came to establish a kingdom, and there would have been people who would not have been able to enter the kingdom or not want to be a part of his kingdom. So that's immediately a barrier or a wall that's been put up there.
Right. And then who might the enemies be who are trying to fight against the Lord is, let me see. Okay, where it shows over here. So this is interesting. This is Lord business or president business, and they're showing where all the walls were constructed around these things. But yeah, so obviously it does kind of look like countries, different countries. There was once a beast that ruled the world, and now there's walls between the lands. And if you look over here, this says Octan headquarters. And so this is out in the sea, and we'll get to this in a little bit. But yeah, so here's basically, looking all happy that he divided up the world. Kind of almost like a Tower of Babel situation where they were one and now they're not. But I thought this was interesting here. So again, I mentioned that all the good characters are known as master builders. Paul, do you want to take a guess on who the master builders could be?
Oh, well, the Freemasons.
Yes, the Freemasons. So it says, so he hunted down the master builders who were always changing everything. Is it possible they were changing the history and things like that? But then it mentions over here that they went into hiding and built the tunnels to survive. So likely they built tunnels between the worlds, the different lands, and that's who controls the tunnels. So, of course, one of my favorite topics, talking about old world stuff, is the tunnel system. So they're crediting the master builders for building the tunnels.
It's probably the case. I mean, they would have had to go into hiding if what we believe is true. During that time, they would not have been allowed to be probably even on the surface. If we think about it in a very literal sense, maybe they literally went underground in a very literal way, waited out until the time was to come back on and to do their thing, And I've always established, and we think our research has shown us, these secret societies, and Grand Master Albert Pike will tell you himself, we worship Lucifer. We are Luciferians, and we want to make sure the whole world gets on board with that belief system, because he is the only one who can bring us into a world of freedom and creativity, like depicted in this. Really, it's what Manly P. Hall was talking about, having imagination and the seething powers of Lucifer running through our veins. And he meant, and he was referring to imagination when he said that, and it's the ability to build and to create our own world, our own heaven on earth type of situation. And these Freemasons are definitely working with Satan and or Lucifer, the analog, whatever you want to define that as, the light bringer, and this seems like it's just telling us that gnostic Freemasonic belief system in a cartoon, doesn't it? Yeah.
Again, like Lucy is one of the people like pushing the story forward, and I'm going to go over to here. And so this was just kind of interesting, is that so Lucy is asking Vitruvius, and actually, let's talk about who Vitruvius is real quick. So as I was saying, this is all about kind of Gnosticism, and so this is Vitruvius right here, an actual man named Vitruvius. And so I looked up who Vitruvius was, and again, that's him right there. That's his little avatar. This is Morgan Freeman, and it says, The name Vitruvius, specifically Marcus Vitruvius Pollio, refers to a Roman architect and engineer from the 1st century BC, known for his treatise of architecture. So yeah, so this guy is, again, he's like the grand architect. Isn't that basically that's where the G comes from in the Freemasonry, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so
I can see that.
So yeah, so if I go over here, and so I just thought this was interesting. This could mean something. This could mean nothing. So Wildstyle asks Vitruvius, which way to Cloud Cuckoo Land? And then so Vitruvius says, head for the big bright thing in the sky. And of course, Emmett says, you mean the sun? Yeah, that's it. So I just thought that was kind of interesting because there's a lot of people who say, and I'm not sure if they're correct or not, that the sun that we see now is not really like the original sun or something like that. And I have no idea if there's any merit to that. But I thought it was pretty interesting in this little scene in this movie that it said they're in Batman's Batwing and they're flying. And he says, hey guys, I think we're about to crash into the sun. Batman says it's going to look real cool when we do. Crashes through the sun. And then before you know it, they're in Cloud Cuckoo Land. So in the movie, the sun was a portal, which looks like it took them to heaven.
Interesting. Yeah, I mean, I don't know if there's any validity. I've heard theories that the sun got replaced with like an artificial sun at some point. People showed examples that China have literally created an artificial sun. Like they have already made one with lots of lights, and they say, well, it's actually underground. It's only there for like theoretical purposes. But they've made an artificial sun basically. But then there's still people taking pictures of the sun and showing it has like a hexagonal multi-dot effect to it from some angles, as though it is just a bunch of LED lights in like a perfect like hexagonal shape, just shining down on us like a directional beam. So I don't know if there's any validity to any of that. I mean, who knows what you can do with like video editing software these days? You have to take it with a pinch of salt. But I didn't know Enoch talked about the sun traveling through the sky through its portals. Yeah, and it's so maybe there's definitely a link between sun and portal in Enoch. So there must be something going on. Who knows? But I guess in this example, it's going through the sun to get to heaven. Which in a way is what Christians believe. You can only get to the Father through Jesus. So maybe that's kind of what they were riffing on with that symbolically, just as an idea.
Certainly could
but
be.
They said sun. It sounds like SON, SUN. I think that's kind of what they were. Yeah,
that's a decent interpretation. I guess that when you're taught the science, right, you think that the sun is a just giant ball of fire. But funny how Vitruvius said it. The big bright thing in the sky. The Bible describes the sun as a light. So like other, I can't remember what the guy's name was, but he was talking about the moon being made of plasma. And so we got this idea based on the science we're taught is that these are physical objects like that you could land a spaceship on, right? Or if you got close to the sun, you would catch into fire, except for that one, was it the Parker space probe that for some reason can go into the sun's atmosphere and not get completely annihilated by the heat? I'm talking about the thing that the piece of crap that NASA has, they say goes like 400,000 miles an hour or faster. You know what I'm talking about?
I don't follow what NASA's coming out with these days. I mean, first of all, they need to figure out how they're getting past that Van Allen belt before they figure anything else out. So I don't know. If
you want to laugh, look up the Parker Space Probe and look how fast they say it goes.
I'll look it up, but I don't even humor them these days. I don't even bother. I just don't anyway. I think they're falling apart, to be honest. I think it's becoming a funny meme to question them now, even to more mainstream people.
Oh, it's definitely a joke. But yeah, I guess the idea that what if the sun is not a physical object and it's more of a spiritual thing? So the idea that, in Enoch, it mentions that the sun, and he mentions the stars going through different portals and things like that. I mean,
have you ever noticed lately as well? I maybe it's my feed that gets this quite a lot, but there's been a lot of news lately about the sun, and it's it's letting flares off all over the place. And
Yeah.
it's we're electromagnetic storms here and there, and then there's also space weather news coming in now, and it's kind of like a city killer asteroid is on its way and is going to hit Earth in 2035, and it's kind of a lot of that fear from outer space stuff is kind of being pushed quite heavily now. Are you getting that? Or is that just me?
No, I've definitely heard some of that stuff. I guess the one thing that there could be some validity to it is that I had my friend Seven Club on, and we were talking about basically he had that idea again that there's lands past, there's lands past the ice wall, and then that our sun is moving, like the circuit of it is moving, and so I mean I guess I kind of favor that idea that we live kind of in some kind of toroidal field. So if the sun is basically on this electromagnetic circuit. So maybe some of it's legit that there is things, but yeah, it's not like what they tell us. But
no, I don't think. But it's kind of I'm always remembering that speech that was given ages ago by I think the assistant of Werner von Braun. It's like a classic conspiracy video. Anybody's been in the game for a while has probably watched it. But she's saying like, rocket scientist Werner von Braun told me there's going to be a plan, and it's all going to be fake, and it's all going to justify building space-based weapons. And the first thing is going to be third world crazies and nations of concern, and then it's going to be eventually it's going to be asteroids from space, and then the final thing is going to be the fake alien invasion, and all of it is a lie. It's all there just to justify building space-based weapons, which then in turn be used to control over humanity. Because what are you going to do? They can zap you from space at any moment, full control type of situation.
Yeah.
Now there's a lot in there which again doesn't align with anything concise with what we've been learning. I think there may be a bit of a lie or a mix in with it, but I feel like that agenda actually still is at play because people believe space is real. Then they're playing out the whole asteroids from space problem right now. What are we going to do? What's Earth got to defend ourselves from asteroids if one does hit us? Those questions are being asked now to get people thinking about it and worrying about it, to make them eventually probably demand space-based weapons to protect us from the asteroids. What if a city killer hits us, But at the same time, from a real biblical Earth perspective, it's all bunk. It cannot be the case. And whatever asteroids are not rocks coming from space, so there's something else, something probably far more weird. Probably realistically we don't really know. Try and explain cryogenic meteors, literally giant blocks of ice just falling from the sky, that defies all logical convention, but they exist too. And it's kind of I don't know, but I'm seeing that agenda come through right now. I think even if we know it's all bunk, they're still doing it because the majority of people do believe on all the propaganda, so I think I'm seeing that now.
Yeah, well, there could be two reasons why they would do that. Well, the one reason would make just the most practical sense is like the people who say, I happen to be one of them. I might be a nuclear bomb skeptic, if that's really a thing. But you have this looming existential threat, right? And they use it to justify war, right? So like that's really what they want. There's big business in war. So we have to do some preemptive strike on countries like Iran and, like Iraq and all that stuff. So that keeps the gears of the military industrial complex turning. But also, it's like the whole Hegelian dialect where you present this problem. It's like this invisible problem, like whether it be the climate or it's like literally asteroids, a comet, whatever's coming down from outer space, or it could be like along came a pale horse, Bill Cooper, saying it's aliens coming. So trust us, bro. We need a space force. We need all this stuff. And it all ends up being, like a money laundering scheme for them to stuff, trillions in their pockets. So, that could certainly if that's all it is, that makes sense to me. Follow the money. But also it makes sense that as we get further into the slides is that what if the looming threat from outer space, big air quotes, outer space, is a city that maybe one day could descend and scare the crap out of everybody, and they're going to say, oh, that's a mothership. They might even use the nuclear idea too. We got to nuke that thing. We're gonna use these imaginary weapons we've got.
Mankind's biggest threat will be our biggest weapon in the end. It's what we're going to use to save us. It saved us all in the end rather than destroyed us all. The irony is palpable. It's poetic. You can see it, can't you? It sounds like
it's kind of like that was in the Matrix, right? When they were talking about when another threat like that. What is AI, right? In the machines, Terminator, the Matrix, and Morpheus gives that speech to Neo about how they're not really sure who like fired first, but it was humans who scorched the sky, and they wrecked the place because the machines operated on solar power. A lot there. Okay, let's continue on. Let's see where we're gonna go next. Okay, so this is the part that really started to catch my eye. Was I mentioned before on the map was the Octane Corporation. Let's go back to that real quick, just a little refresher as we've talked for a while. Okay, so this looks very much like Europe, Paul. You kind of catch that?
Immediately, it's the first thing I noticed. Yeah,
it kind of looks like Europe. And then so you got over here the Octane Corporation, which, we can't see the whole world, but it could be in the center, right? But it is in the middle of the sea somewhere. And then so you go over here, and so confirmation that it's in the sea. The pirate guy's telling this monologue about how he went there and he tried to sneak in. And so he took his ship. And then so you look over here, looks like a mountain, and then you get a closer look. I arrived at the foot of the tower, and so Lord Business is at the top of this tower. And you start looking at it, and you're like, Paul, what do you see when you see that? Is that what this tower is there's an infinity floor on this thing.
Yeah, it's a giant black mountain monolith looking thing. It's a Rubus Nigra parallel, isn't it? Definitely something like that.
Yeah, maybe I should...
or the Dark Tower, if you want to get all Stephen King about it, and invert it gnostically speaking. Like, it's
explain to me the Dark Tower. I know they made a movie. Was that the movie? Was it based on a book by Stephen King?
Yeah, it's like a trilogy, I think it was. It basically followed a gunslinger kind of cowboy type person through a vast dry place, like an emptiness that was kind of between realms. It's like a purgatory type thing, and he's trying to make his way to the Dark Tower, and then there's like a man in black that's following him throughout the entire thing, and that's always catching up with him. It's really odd, and it's like, but they made a movie about it, and yeah, it's a dystopic world where the Dark Tower emits its evil upon everything, and a lone savior is there to destroy it and bring it down to free the dimensions from its oppression and stuff like that. It's a really complex story. It's a bit convoluted, to be honest, but it's basically, it makes an enemy out of an omnipotent god, basically. It's typical Gnostic.
Right, so it sort of fits though, right? Because that's kind of what they're saying is that in this movie, the Lego movie, and in the Dark Tower, it's the most powerful being is there, and he's evil. And of course, you can sell it to a public who's unaware of these things, because like, who else would be in a black tower? This is like Lord of the Rings vibes, right? This is Sauron. The two towers. You have Saruman and Sauron have this dark tower, and they're evil. So of course, it being black seems like, I mean, it totally fits.
The all-seeing eye. It sees everything. It sees all. It's omnipotent God that knows everything and everything that's happening all at once. And it's just an inversion of the idea of if there is a God that's omnipotent, he's the bad guy. That's all it ever is. That's the same story we're being told over and over again, whether it's in kids' films or adult films. That seems to be the go-to for most of Hollywood productions. When it comes to these grand epics, shall we say?
It's the being who wants everyone else to follow the rules.
Yes.
So that's why the rebels are the good guys. And so we know in the true story, the guy who wants you to follow the rules is for your own benefit, and the one who wants you to break the rules is because he's a liar and he hates you. That's the serpent. So just to go, I'm sure lots of people in this audience are familiar with this, but let's look over here. So this right here is your Mount Meru or your Rupus Nigra, and this is like the Mercator map, and this is what people on lots of old maps. I want to say, what is the oldest one of these? Like, it's from the 1500s, Paul. We're told.
I'm not sure. I can't really see what you've got on screen right now. There's a lag on what I'm watching here. I don't know if you're showing me something.
Okay.
I do know that most of the old maps we've got, yeah, they're roughly around that date, that period, aren't they? 1500, maybe 1400 at a push, but it's really when exploration began, wasn't it? We're told. And but yeah, I don't think they're that old, many of the maps we've got.
But this is what people really kind of in this community really have clued in on about maybe the camp of the saints are at the North Pole. And this is what's shown at the North Pole in a lot of these old maps, because this kind of has like Eden vibes, how Eden has 4 rivers.
Mm-hmm.
And then people say, oh, well, there's Euphrates and the Tigris. And then there's 2 other rivers that don't exist on our maps. But it's weird that 2 of them do. So maybe those rivers are not the original ones. Maybe this is where this is actually, because there's scriptures, even it mentions in Ezekiel 28 that there was, like Eden was, the garden of God was at the top of a mountain.
Mm-hmm.
So this could be, is it possible this is where the top of Eden is? And this is where the camp of the saints would have been. So I think it's interesting. So if you have this next picture that gives a little, man, when I had a magnifying glass. Well, anyways, here you see it. This is
seems odd to make a map like this if you didn't think this was in the center of the earth. Like, it seems really odd to make something so oddly specific like this unless you didn't know that was there. I mean, how could you make such a huge mistake by making a map? I mean, it's here. I can see it now. It's on my screen now because, like I said, there's a lag and it's
indeed. So yeah, it says over here. This top heading says 1595 Mercator map. So at this point, at least even according to the history, Columbus has sailed across the ocean blue 100 years ago. So there's no reasonable reason why they couldn't get to this by ship. And that's the one thing I've always said is that if you didn't know something was there, you would never err on the side of being more land, right? You would just assume it's ocean if you never got there. So this is pretty specific.
Mm-hmm.
I've never heard even. Maybe somebody should look that up. If is there a mainstream explanation on why they would have depicted the North Pole to ever look like this with the black rock, which people believe it's a magnetic black rock, and that's where you have above that you have Polaris, the star that's fixed, that never moves, and again that kind of fits into what I said earlier about this being like a toroidal field. That the constellations, the stars, the sun and the moon are fixed and they're moving around this central point.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think most isn't like Vitali did a lot of work on this, didn't he?
Yeah, his book Paradise.
Paradise, yeah, and how basically every culture talks about this place in the center of the earth, which is always depicted something like this everywhere. Like, everyone kind of knew there was this place, and even the 4 rivers coming from it. I think that's even a common thing as well. I mean, even in Chinese mythology of the dragons, they believe that the 4 rivers were created through dragons, through God placing mountains on top of dragons. It's really, and people say, well, that's the 4 rivers coming through China. But what if they were talking about? I'm just trying to think now. If just flashback memory there, but the idea is like, I think. Maybe people put this on maps because they just assumed it was already understood knowledge that that's what's in the north. It's like a byproduct. It's like they don't even think about it. And to us now, it's like, what the hell were they thinking? Why would you put that there? How you'd best put nothing there instead of something, lest be wrong. Do you know what I mean? It's like, Absolutely. Why would you risk your entire profession of being a decent cartographer by just blatantly putting something so patently false on your maps? You know what I mean? And that people are obviously going to discover isn't really there. And it's kind of, why would you risk that? You wouldn't. It just baffles all logic, really, which tells me, well, they must have just been one of those known knowns. Like, yeah, that's what's there. Everyone knows that's what's there. Everyone's put it on all their maps since since the beginning of time. We all know that's what's there. Why wouldn't I put that on my map? It's that kind of attitude, isn't it? But for us today, it's like, this makes no sense. What were the idiots? They're just bad at the job. Like, what's
Yeah,
going on?
well,
Have they not seen Google Earth? It's like, obviously there's nothing there. Like,
well, the one
it's that
thing,
kind of thing.
the one reason you wouldn't do that is because who are using these maps? Sailors, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you would never want to tell somebody land was someplace across the sea, and they get there and they find out there's no land there, because that would be really dangerous, right? If they were counting on getting to a place that didn't exist, and it was only rough north, like North Atlantic seas there, it'd be like certain death if they went there and there was nothing there.
So yeah, I know they do. There is a practice where cartographers purposefully add a very small fake place on their maps, as a check against people who fake their maps or copy their maps. It's like a copyright check, and it's kind of like, it's a forgery because the forger added this fake place because he copied it from my map where I added the fake place. Do you get what I mean? So it's kind of to protect from forgeries. They would purposely add a fault that anyone who was copying it wouldn't notice or think about. So that's how you can prove it was stolen, basically. I know that was a practice for cartographers, but this is like a huge thing to add. It's not like a small.
It's the central part of your map, and what's interesting is that there's editions of these maps that look very similar. And if you look at this one, if you see the one I showed before, here's a full island here, and if you go into this next one, it's partially submerged, and then there's more that I think that there might only be like 2 islands left, and eventually they disappear like completely. So I mean, like that's really specific if there's nothing to it. But anyways, we should go back to the Lego movie. So this is the Little Season Lego movie. Okay, so again, here's this dark tower. It kind of could be a tower, but it could be, there you go. There's another view of it. Obviously, it looks mountainous at the bottom of it. So it's kind of like, is this a tower? Is this a building, or is this a mountain? And if you see their Emmett here, Chris Pratt, they're getting the plane to break into it, and you see it's drawn more like a mountain right there than it is a building. You seen that yet, Paul?
Yeah, I can see it. Yeah, it's the bottom of it is all like stone. It's like it's coming out of stone. It's built from stone, and the tieredness, the pyramid. It looks like a pyramid with an eye on top, actually.
Yeah, especially that picture right there. Yeah, it definitely resembles Lord of the Rings. Like I always bring that up, but yeah, it does. Okay, we'll go to the next slide. And so here's something that I found fascinating to go back to. What you see at the bottom of this picture here is a vortex. It's kind of like, again, it's like it's a vortex. It's kind of like another portal here. And so eventually Emmett jumps off there. He sacrifices himself. He jumps down into this, and it takes him in a portal to the real world, real life. But one thing I found interesting about this was almost my first interpretation of this was that you have what we're told about the bottomless pit and what we're told about heaven is that the bottomless pit is as low as heaven is high. So if you think about like our realm, could be globe-like, could be like a big sphere, right? So heaven is at the top, because you see those Hebrew depictions of it where the Most High God, his throne rests at the very top of it. Well, the furthest place from that is the bottomless pit. So right at the bottom of this tower, you have a pit that looks quite bottomless. But what you also have, you switch back over to this map, what people talk about, the Mercator map, is that these 4 rivers converging together, it created some kind of a vortex, like a whirlpool around this tower. And maybe that's one of the reasons it would be very difficult to get to, because if the seas were swirling in a vortex fashion, it would probably be, you wouldn't be taking wooden ships there, I wouldn't think.
No.
It would be certain death. Okay, now I'm going to go to the next slide here. Okay, so here was a key moment in the movie where I was like, obviously I saw the Black Rock stuff, the Black Tower, Dark Tower stuff, but there's a scene at the end of the movie, it's reaching the climax where Lord Business he's got to put everyone in their place. And by putting them in their place, he's literally going to glue them together. So they have to follow the rules. Oh, I should mention also, Lord Business's minions are like all robotic. They're all like robots, which kind of makes sense that's how maybe the master builders view Christians.
Yeah.
Right. Where we don't think, we got this hive mind. We only do what we're told by the Lord. And that's a bad thing.
I've got something on that. Actually, I'll let you finish first, but I've got something just came to me. So keep going. You finish your point, and I'll.
Well, no, you can go, because we're going to get to the stuff with. I want to focus on the next part. So go ahead.
It's just about this idea that there's a tower. There's always a tower, evil controlling thing that dictates over everything else around it. The big bad's in there. And then there's always a rebellion of some kind, or a revolution that goes after the big tower to bring it down, and then freedom. So it's always the rebellion is the good guys, the tower that wants to establish order are the bad guys. Anyone who follows the order of the tower is a robot in some way. And just parallel this against, it's like basically a tongue-in-cheek reference to Christianity. It's like Christianity follow this monolithic dictatorship structure of some kind. That's how they kind of perceive Christianity, you know, with God at the top and everyone under him, under his dominion, you know, as if that's a bad thing. And it's kind of, and anyone who follows them is terrible. Well, it reminded me of a video game I used to play a lot, and it was kind of my favorite world, shall we say. And I know people listening might know what I'm talking about. It's called Half-Life. Now, Half-Life 1 wasn't really what I'm talking about. I think the developers were just having a bit of fun with that one. But then when Half-Life 2 came around, the story took a huge change, a massive overhaul. And it was set in a dystopic world called City 17. And you kind of were thrusted out of like stasis outside of space and time. And I'm not going to explain how that happened, but you basically end up being put into City 17 because outside weird forces want to use you there. They put you there because they think you're going to make a difference there. And you basically end up creating a revolution while there to go against this giant citadel that's kind of taken over the whole place. And it turns out what happened in your absence since the big event that happened in this secret underground military base years ago, which you caused, by the way, before you were frozen in time, you come back into the future and you opened a portal, which let all these aliens into your world, basically. And it says there was literally a 7-minute war. It was over in 7 minutes.
7 minutes, huh?
Earth had surrendered within 7 minutes of these people these aliens turning up, and the aliens are called the Combine. So they're actually a collective hive mind type of collective of beings that have all borged themselves to one unified system. And you find the Combine are like alien species from different planets, or that have been like transhumanized. They've been genetically modified with technology to align with the Combine. That's kind of how it goes. And Earth has their own transhumanized members of the Combine who capitulated and went with the program, you know what I mean? And we was talking about this Lego movie in the towers, and I reminded me the whole game was just the exact same thing, just more adultified. And I thought it was funny that anybody who follows or comes under the dominion of the tower or the Combine is like loses themselves to the collective hive mind. That's exactly how they view Christians. That's basically a tongue-in-cheek reference of the revolution is against Christianity and God, basically, just with aliens as an analog in some way. And it's kind of the evil, overarching, controlling system that wants to bring everybody together as one under their rule is evil. And I think Connor from the Cult of Con talks about this all the time, like the Christian dominion movement. This idea that Christ came to establish a kingdom with one king at the top, you know, a rulership, and we are to become members of the kingdom, which are subject to the king in a way. And it's because no one really knows better or what's better for us than the Son of God. It can't get much better than that, really, you know. And people make out, well, a kingdom must be a bad thing. Every king's a despot. Every rulership or a hierarchy system is bad for us. And we must rebel against order with chaos in order to not allow ourselves to become amalgamated into the hive mind Bohr Combine system of Christianity. You know what I mean? But the truth is, like, it's actually would be good for us. Humanity collectively would get much better very quickly, and a lot of our problems would very quickly disappear if we were to get on board with the Christian dominion movement or the kingdom movement, or basically if everyone became Christian, everything would pretty much become pretty good for us all very quickly. And all these movies and games that we're referencing here are all designed to make you join the rebellion. Even Star Wars is the exact same thing.
Yeah, again,
it's all the same.
It's an evil
no new story,
empire versus the good-hearted rebels who are scoundrels like Han Solo.
Exactly.
But look, so did you see that? Can you see this picture, Paul?
The 3 robots.
Yeah. So these are Lord Business's people at the top of the tower, and they just happen to resemble evil robots, and they got glowing red eyes. So like that's kind of like that's who lives with the Lord in the tower. And so if you want to we go back into the thing right here. Okay, so this is showing you right here. This is the top of the tower separating. And this is like this will come. This actually there's more to it actually now that you mentioned that, because it made me think about the evil robots who serve the Lord. But also, okay, back over here. So you see the top of the tower is separated here. And I want to go into the book of Revelation here. I want to read a verse. This is Revelation chapter 21. And it mentions here that, let me go over to, we got, the KJV is probably not going to be the best version to read. It said that, well, I'm not even going to read it because we're going to have to use regular terms for us to understand. But if you go into Revelation chapter 21, verse 16 and 17, it mentions the dimensions of New Jerusalem. And in our terms, it would be 1,500 miles by 1,500 miles by 1,500. So 1,500 miles wide, the width is 1,500 miles, and it's 1,500 miles tall. Those dimensions are a cube. So if you see what's coming off the tower, the top of the tower comes off and it's a cube. And as I mentioned earlier about the idea that maybe all this outer space stuff could be referencing the potential mothership coming to get us. Maybe a Star Trek concept, which I said is interesting because if you go into the Star Trek mythos, the big bad alien threat is the Borg. So the Borg come in a giant monolithic black cube. it's like how on the nose is that? And so when you see what the Borg
resistance is futile, come join us. Like you will become one with the collective. It's the combine. It's the combine, as I mentioned earlier. This idea that it's like an amalgam of all cultures losing their identity and becoming one type of thing, which is what, like I said, that's how they view us. This is how the secular mind views Christians. Like, if you didn't know, this is what all the programming has taught them to see us as. And this is, whether it's outspoken or subconscious, this is how they view us. This is how they see us, whether they're programmed to or they did it on their own volition. Whether they know it or not, deep down, this is probably how they see us as an idea, as a collective.
See, like the Borg, like human, but not quite, not really alive, but not dead either. That's interesting. And so another movie reference is that you got the Marvel franchise. And of course, you guys in this comment section, I'm sure you guys all know about my kind of talk about the symbolism and inversion between Thanos and our God. Because he claims he does the I am symbolism. His goal is to snap his fingers and to make half of the universe to disappear, kind of like a twisted view of the rapture. But what's really interesting about Thanos, his ship is called the Sanctuary.
Yeah.
I mean,
get more than that. I know, right? Wow.
I know. His ship is called the Sanctuary. So you see the black cube going off. And so here's where you get like totally on the nose. So here is the city down below, Lego City or whatever you want to call it. And you have this big giant black cube coming to not quite destroy it, but it's going to set it in order, is what it's actually trying to do.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, yeah, like that is like, this is so on the nose when you see the images of the big black monolithic cube coming. I was like, oh my gosh, how did I never notice that? And I think that's one of the things that some of us wonder, where is New Jerusalem? Is it in a land that we could get to? I kind of feel like it's more like this, where it's maybe the land is not accessible, but even if you could get there, what if it was something like it would be at the top of a mountain, there would be no way to climb.
Mm-hmm.
You couldn't get there unless you were invited.
Mm-hmm.
Like that place, like, kind of like what it's showing, like it's in the middle of a sea, and what if it's so high that the sun would not even provide it any light?
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying?
Well, it wouldn't need a sun because Jesus is there as well.
Right, but that's correct. But I was just wondering if, like, because there's been, I've wondered aloud, is it possible that place could be outside of the realm, maybe past the ice wall or something like that, where it would
maybe outer space.
It would
space outside the ring. I know what you're saying. Yeah,
it would be a place outside the sun's circuit, so naturally it would be dark, but it would only be bright where there was an alternate light source, which would be Christ. He'd be the light. But what if, I never even thought about this, but what if it was so high that it actually was above the sun? Mm-hmm. So it would still be dark unless you could be there.
It could be. I mean, the impression it gives of this mountain is that it is this spike that goes impossibly high, and nobody could reach it. It's impossible,
it would be like, it would almost be like it went so high it went to space, right?
Yeah,
and exactly. Space would be dark.
I'm just looking at this black cube here now, glowing away above everything, and it just reminds me of all the videos I made talking about this concept of a alien invasion. What would you do? What do you do then? It's kind of most people. If I remember correctly, in the Lego movie, this thing starts releasing like robots everywhere with super glue.
Yeah, it's almost kind of like the, what is it, the Sentinels in the Matrix movies, because they're all like kind of squid-like and they're coming around,
I remember, yeah.
Yeah, so then, of course, this is Cowboy Land, whatever. You can see it's moving over. Again, very reminiscent of the movie Independence Day, where the big old ships kind of slowly move over a city and just sit there. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's what again, this is, it's pretty much just like that. This big black cube settles over to one of these places. Yeah, Lord Business. Don't worry about the big black monolith thing.
I think it's funny as well, the idea that it's going to freeze them in place as well, so they can't move. Or I think metaphorically, it's the idea that total Christianity freezes humanity in one spot and stops them from developing anymore. It's that kind of thing. The Dark Ages, for example.
Yeah, that's the Dark Ages lie, right?
Yeah. It's like where, when Christianity took over and suddenly there was no scientific advancement for 1,000 years. It's that kind of myth we're always told, isn't it? It's like nothing happened for 1,000 years because Christianity took over and set everything back. Imagine what would happen if that hadn't have happened, where we would be today. They always have that argument, don't they? Well, the monolith comes to freeze everybody in place and stop them from being creative.
Well, and literally that's the opposite of the truth, because we believe that was a glorious time. That's the time where we got way advancements in society, advancements that they took away from us and have hidden from us. And so they say, oh, nothing much happened. Obviously the Romans did a great job. The Christians wrecked the place for about 1,000 years. And now we're on the up. We're glowing up now. Okay, so there you go. There's we got, again, this is Lord Business in his whatever. This is a big crown thing. Again, more visions of the big black cube coming out, and you can kind of see the tentacle type things coming out of it. The pipes and stuff. The craggle. So the big emphasis in this movie is the craggle, which was a super glue little tube, and was it part of, like, the letters had been kind of scratched off so you couldn't read it, so they called it the craggle, even though it was even though it was really what it was said on there was crazy glue.
Was it crazy glue? Craft glue? I thought it was crazy glue. Yeah, that
It
makes
might have been
sense.
crazy glue with a K, and the piece of resistance was the cap for the glue. Again, it's a fun. I mean, it's a fun movie. I'll be honest, it's a fun movie. But yeah, so then there's this speech at the end where Lucy is telling all the people in all the realms, all the worlds, to break up the streets, make whatever you can, make a mess of this place, and to defend yourself against Lord Business. What if that was like, I don't know, New Jerusalem appears and Lucy says, "Hey, everyone, we need everybody to come together to defend ourselves and to fight back against President Business or Lord Business's plans to freeze us."
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's the thing. Like, so you really think about that. So if you saw that map we showed earlier, there's all these different realms and lands. They're all being told by Lucifer, to defend yourselves against the Lord, which actually makes a lot of sense because it's hard for me to wrap my mind around that the devil could get people to go march to the North Pole to go fight, like fight an offensive battle against the Lord in the holy city. So it would make more sense. Again, this always makes more sense in like the kind of the idea of like along came a pale horse. You have this alien invasion, you have this alien threat, and you could get people to defend themselves against a common evil, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, like literally that's like the movie like Independence Day. China, United States, we're putting away our differences because this is an existential threat that's going to wipe out all of humanity if we do not work together.
It's the Reagan speech all over again.
Yeah,
You know,
absolutely.
how quickly our differences would fall away if we were under threat from an outside force from space as well, little green men and all this type of thing. Well, yeah.
100%.
This is the only way I could see it happening. This is the only way I can see all of humanity coming together as one for any reason. I just don't see anything else big enough and like mind shattering enough to make people go, yeah, all right. No more war, no more borders, no more division. All humanity is one. Let's all come together as one and go and fight our common enemy. It's the only thing I can imagine. It has to be something so big, so outside of our everyday perception that it just you would be insane not to go along with it. This is how big it has to be. It's kind of like, and if you're not going to join the Earth's army to defend itself against evil invading aliens, you're a traitor to humanity. It's that kind of stuff. You know what I mean? It's like,
yeah,
you have to join, or else what are you? What, you don't want humanity to survive against the aliens? What are you, some kind of like traitor? And this is the problem. It's kind of like, by this point, if that did happen, there's going to be a huge contingent of Christians who are going to go, hell no. I know what's really going on, and I've speculated on my channel quite a lot. It's like, how would they be seen in that moment? What would the consequence of that be? And I imagine that's what the guillotines would be for more than anything. I think, in World War One, they shot you in the back for running away. It's simple. Like, they lined you up and shot you if you didn't go over the trenches. Why would we suddenly change 100 years later or 150 or however long it takes, I can see that coming. And this is, at the end of the day, they always said Christians who stay strong in their faith and stick with Jesus, you're probably going to get martyred for it. That's kind of how it's going to go, realistically. So it's scary to think about from those perspectives when you really get down to the nitty gritty of this. Like, if this became a reality, and the only reason I think it could be a reality is because they put so much money into the propaganda. They have been pushing this so much for so many years. The plan's got to go like this a little bit. Something like all these movies combined into one narrative. You know what I mean? Like, it might not be like Independence Day holistically. It might not be fully like how The Matrix goes down, but it's going to be like a weird mix of all of these Hollywood movies together in some way we just can't really see coming. And I hazard to guess to make a prediction of exactly how, but I'm watching things like AI and how it's kind of growing and developing and what role it could play. I'm watching things like the news, like I said, about the threats from outer space they're kind of playing on us now. And this is what understanding the conspiracy is. At the end of the day, we've got to look at all of these things and say, where does it fit into this grand narrative they're creating for us to believe we're a part of? And again, it's like the Lego movie is another tiny piece that is giving us a hint and a clue to what their agenda is and how they want people to see what they're doing to be. Because as I mentioned there, Albert Pike, they want us to follow Lucifer. They want us to think it's the best choice. They're going to try and convince us that it's the right way to go. And Adonai, as they call the God of the Christians, is the evil one. Okay, and this is how they see it. It's not how we see it.
Right.
And the whole plan of the externalization of the hierarchy is to make us know they exist and to want to be on their side. So I think the way they do that is slowly through movies like this. This is kind of that's my kind of takeaway from all of it, really. And we're only really just seeing through what the real message was. With all this, like I said, this little season symbolism that's obviously in there now in hindsight, we didn't see it the first time, but more and more things are getting revealed to us every day, clearly.
Yeah, well, I would say that if anything's taught us anything over the past, 5 years, is that fear is a very powerful motivator. They can manipulate us in all kinds of ways when we're afraid. And you see how quickly people turn on other people when they're afraid. It's like, that's the one thing you really were just struck with, was how awful people were to other people by saying, you're going to get me killed unless you comply. So yeah, that's definitely how the devil would operate, is to add a fear. And obviously God tells us to not be afraid and not to love our lives unto death. So we would not do things that were against our conscience because we're afraid, because that shows a lack of faith. It's okay to be afraid a little bit, but I mean, it's not okay to be operating out of fear, because the Holy Spirit is not a spirit of fear. It's a power, love, and self-control, or a sound mind. So, yeah, I mean, if people are afraid they're going to die, it's like, they would do anything. And that's the thing. That's how the saints overcome in the book of Revelation, is they did not love their lives unto death. Because you're willing to lose your life to find it. And if you're not, those who seek to save their lives will lose it. Yeah, so it is really clear that that's what these movies show you over and over again, is that there's this existential threat of all humanity. And it's repeated over and over again in all these sci-fi fantasy movies. So if people were presented with this idea, especially again, I think it's really interesting to think that in the little season, we are looking for different signs of the end versus the people who are not. So many people thought, and I'm correct, I think Paul and you and I, we might have talked about this before, is that I thought that what if the devil himself and some fallen angels showed up, like they're the Palladians or something, right? And I was thinking so where would they come from? They would fake that they came from outer space, and they would show up to Earth, and we would think that, you're going to trick us into following the Antichrist, aren't you? Mm-hmm. But what if the threat from space was not fallen angels? What if it was the Lord himself? Because that's the thing, you're not looking for that. So the premillennial view would automatically think that this is Project Bluebeam, this is fake, this is that, and they're not even going to believe it, because they're like, okay, well, a third temple has not been built yet, so we can't be there. People are going to say you're going to take the mark of the beast, and you're like, but what about this? Oh, don't worry about that's Project Bluebeam. Don't even worry. When that's literally this is the end game. This is Thanos' end game right here, and people are not looking for it because they're wrong about where they are on the timeline.
Yeah, I mean, a simple thing as being shifted on a timeline can change everything, your perceptions of everything. And like I said, a lot of the rebuttals I've heard repeatedly is a lot of the people who are against even considering this angle is that they are too invested in Jerusalem as it is today, in Israel. And they believe that is wholeheartedly what the Bible was talking about. And like I said, they're waiting for this third temple, which is not even biblical, to be built. And never mind researching that they tried to build a third temple once. You know what happened to those people?
Yeah,
Do
they
you
were.
want to tell us, JT?
Yeah, that was a pretty amazing story. I said I
Mm.
can't believe I've not made a reel about that yet. So the people in the times of, I guess it was, they called him Julian the Apostate. We're told this is like in the 3rd century, I believe.
Hmm.
I doubt that it was then, but yeah. So there was Christian rule in Rome, and Julian the Apostate, I can't remember who, he might have been related to Constantine, I think. And so he was going against Christians. He was trying to bring back all the pagan traditions. So he gave the Jews money and in aid in order for them to build another temple on the Temple Mount. And when they tried, there was massive earthquakes, and there was also the ground swallowed them up, and there was fire that came from inside the earth to burn them up. It's kind of like
Yeah.
like the biblical maybe typology of that would be like the rebellion of Korah when they rebelled against Moses and Aaron and these other, I guess, Levitical type priest characters. They wanted more authority, and when they tried, the earth swallowed them up, and nothing like that ever had happened before. But yeah, like that's like literally history. And I think there's also another story where the Jews had a rebellion, with what they say is the 2nd century, and they fought against Trajan. And so this is when supposedly whatever remnants of Jerusalem was there was wiped out completely, and they destroyed everything off the Temple Mount. And Trajan erected a temple to Jupiter on the Temple Mount. So it's funny to even think about like that. So Jupiter being Zeus, Zeus being Satan. So is that an abomination of desolation? Where you took where the Lord's temple once was, and you built a temple to Satan? Is that not desolate enough for you? I mean, come on.
Plenty of examples. Plenty of examples. I mean, one I always hear quite a lot is about, well, Damascus is still there, so it can't be. And it's kind of like, have you looked at the history of Damascus? It's been laid waste like 16 times. It's ridiculous how often that city's been destroyed. So what we see today is not the Damascus they were talking about. Like when you actually look into it, like there's ruins around that from that time, but the place is not actually what you think it is today. Like, so when you actually really think about it, it's been sacked and taken over and destroyed and leveled many times throughout history, to the point where the original thing is gone. Just like the 7 churches are gone. You know what I mean? It's the same thing. And this is, but like I said, they point to these modern places and think that's the place they were actually talking about back then. And it's kind of, there's a lot of, and this is why we can't communicate. It's hard to bridge that gap with a lot of these people, because there are places today which they're looking at and thinking is legitimately what the Bible was talking about. And like I said, our research is showing us, no, it seems like we've, even geographically speaking, we've been lied to about a lot of things. Like, and it's hard to grasp. So I have a kind of empathy for like the futurist people and the dispensationalist types. I do, because I can see how far they have to go to get to kind of where we got to. Like, it's, can you remember what it was like for you? You know what I mean? Like, like it was tough, wasn't it? So it's kind of, I'm quite forgiving of them. That's why I'm not looking to fight any of them or debate any of them or anything like that. It's kind of just read the words of Jesus.
Specifically when you talked about the city of Damascus, because that one comes up a lot, and I always thought that was a kind of a funny one, because that's not mentioned by Jesus. It's not mentioned in the book of Revelation. It's mentioned by Isaiah. And that judgment, I believe, I would encourage people to do this, because this is the first year I've done it, and I'm not doing it perfectly. I started to read the Bible in chronological order, as far as like chronologically when the books would have fit. Now, my wife is doing a more advanced version of that, where she's like has to go back, like where if you read parts of Kings, then you go read this prophet, and then you go back to Kings, you read parts of the Psalms, you go back, because it's trying to keep it all in order. But I just literally just pick the books in order. But if you understand like where Isaiah is in the timeline, like here's an example. So Isaiah is the son of Amos. Amos is after the book of Isaiah. So that's kind of weird. It should be, it makes sense that the dad is before the son in the story. So if you start reading them in order, then you start to understand like that when the prophets are calling for judgment in certain places, Isaiah is not calling for the destruction of Damascus in the 2000s AD. He was calling for it when the Assyrians were going to come to destroy it, and they did. I think that judgment likely took place in like the 700s, 780 something BC, we're told. So it was destroyed by the Assyrians. So I think that people like, again, they accuse us of cherry picking scriptures to prove what we believe. That is cherry picking on a level that you can't even get to. Oh, what about when Damascus is destroyed? I still see Damascus on my maps. Go look it up. Go look it up, guys. Anybody who's doubting this, you look up what the oldest building in Damascus is. What they say is it's an 8th century mosque. So that is not an ancient. So if Isaiah was talking about this place being destroyed, if the oldest building is from the 8th century, which might have been the 1st century, that place was destroyed, and it was destroyed more than one time.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying. But it's like a cursory search will show you that. Like it's been destroyed many times. It's like one of the I think it's like one of the most invaded places in the area. Like it just keeps getting taken over throughout history, like constantly. And it's kind of but because on a map the word Damascus is there. Well, like you're wrong. It's like there's a lot of nuance to this idea, this concept, which again I empathize that people struggle to grasp. I really do. But right now, there's a lot of people on the front lines who seem to be battling it out, trying to hash this out with people. And there is a serious eschatological, theological debate happening now in Christendom because of this little season stuff. Like you can see it unfold. It's in its early stages, but it's snowballing now because you can't put a lid on something like this. You can't. You really can't because it's changing everything. And like I said, I'm just going to watch. I'm just watching, because it's the truth is the truth at the end of the day, and it's fascinating to see how it's changing people and affecting people in big ways. Like I said, I'm not saying they're not Christian, but there's a lot of unchristian behavior coming out of people because when they hear about this type of thing, it rattles them to the core.
I'm like,
when for people
the little
first hear
season.
this.
And he's like, yeah.
I keep hearing the phrase like,
"This is my plea."
If this is true, then all my faith was in vain. They actually believe that. They believe that's the case, and it's sad that they think that way. It's like, what do you mean your faith is in vain? Because what? Because you didn't get to rule like a king for 1,000 years on the earth? Do you even know what's to come after all of this? Shouldn't your hope be in that? And it's kind of, what are you talking about? Your faith was in vain. Who told you that your faith would be in vain if this is true? Why do you believe that? And it's odd that they do, but that's what they think. And it's kind of, they're coming from a very strange place. And I blame churchianity. I think churchianity and religiosity and ritual has done this to them. And
yeah. You know what? It's funny. It's funny you say that too. Is that I've seen. I saw a really good video about this the other day about how people trying to debunk it and then trying to infight. And I do kind of respect your place now of like. That's why I said I got Josh now who wants me to kind of break down some of these videos, and I don't think we've ever really done it in a kind of mean-spirited way. Obviously we're playing defense for the most part, other than the fact that I make fun of dispensationals all the time. So maybe I'm being a little bit hypocritical. But I saw a really interesting video here. I want to share this, Paul. Somebody shared this with me the other day. And it was a guy who was telling people to stop teaching against the little season. And I'm like, we often play like kind of videos that we don't quite love, but this one, if you guys have seen this, I've never seen this person in the community. Maybe if you're here, speak up. But check this out, Paul.
"This is my plea to online ministries coming out against the little season without having done the required research. You are pushing people away from Christ. Sorry if that's hard to hear, but you are. There is an entire community of people, mostly Gnostics, some New Agers, some unaffiliated, even some."
Let me pause it. Yeah, if you can't see it, I think maybe I have to. This is new to me, Paul.
It's all right. Well, you had earlier when we were doing the test run, you managed to get a screen up. So do whatever you did before. It's not there now. I don't. Like I said, I've got this on my screen on my phone, but it's quiet. Because obviously I'm listening through my laptop, so it's.
Let me see here.
This is the usual stuff that happens in a live show, so it is what it is. I'm sure the people will understand.
Can you see it now?
I can see that now. I can see that now. Yeah.
Okay. All right. I'll play it again. Can you hear it?
This is my plea to online ministries coming out against the little season without having done.
That's the next thing.
All right. Let's see if I can fix this one more time. Sorry, people in the audience. Again, yeah, this is sometimes you get to see how the sausage is made. You know, you might have to listen to it on here because I don't think that I can allow.
Oh. Okay, if you just press play.
Okay.
This is my plea to online ministries coming out against the little season without having done the required research. You are pushing people away from Christ. Sorry if that's hard to hear, but you are. There is an entire community of people, mostly Gnostics, some New Agers, some unaffiliated, even some weak Christians, that have done way more research into this than you have from the perspective of catastrophism, melted geology, petrified geology, old world buildings, star forts, mud flood, and other tangible physical evidence. These non-believers are coming to you seeking biblical answers to make sense of their research. You're telling them they're wrong. It's not in the Bible. The evidence is not what they think it is, and move along. How rare is it when non-believers actually come to believers asking questions and seeking for answers? It's almost always us going to non-interested parties. In this case, they're coming to us, and we're pushing them away. What an opportunity we have here. They don't know the scriptures, which is why they're coming to the people that do. When they do, they're being stonewalled, told it's not biblical, we're not in that time, the evidence is wrong. These people then have two options: dismiss the physical evidence and blindly believe the Bible, which is contrary to what they see, or accept the physical evidence and continue rejecting the Bible as fiction since it doesn't account for the real world. Shame on us as a body for allowing this to happen. If you have not done the research, stop teaching against this. You are turning people away from Christ. I say it again. If you have not put in the time studying this out, yet are putting out videos denouncing this, stop. You are turning people away from Christ.
Did you get all that, Paul? You still watching it? You muted.
I paused it. I've got a bit of a lag on you, so I don't want. I guess I'm missing like 30 seconds at the end, but I get the gist of what he's saying. Yeah, I mean, it's not very often you hear that. Is it? I don't think he's. Is he on board with?
That's just said. I just saw the video. I never actually had looked at his channel before, but I thought, yeah, I mean, of course, I'm maybe a little bit biased, so I agreed. But I mean, I thought the general point of what he was saying, and I think that it kind of almost, we could use that introspectively about us too, is that if people are talking about the rapture, oh shoot, my light just went out, talking about the rapture and stuff like that, and it's bringing people to Christ, well, we shouldn't necessarily preach out against it. I guess the difference would kind of be that I know about that theology. I've looked into that a lot. So what he's saying is that you should not try to come out and debunk something so hard when it is showing good fruit, which I believe it is showing good fruit, because the people, and a lot of people, I'm sure there's probably testimonies in this audience today, is that they looked into the mud flood, they looked into Taria, the old world, all the Antiquitech, the crazy stuff, and they did not know Jesus, and this pointed them toward Jesus. So could we be wrong about where we're on the timeline? Absolutely. I mean, we could definitely, Paul and I could be wrong too. The point is that theology, your eschatology is not what's going to keep you in and out of heaven. I'm not saying it could be, it's certainly important, but it's more important that they find Jesus. And I think that from my perspective, this kind of takes me back to when I was having my own, like, kind of maybe question of my faith, when I was like going down like the ancient alien rabbit hole well before this. And I was like, well, what is the Christian explanation for these giant megaliths, and Graham Hancock and John Anthony West and all these really smart people are saying these things took place 12,000 years ago. The biblical timeline's only about 6,000 years. So I don't think it's aliens, but what is it? Maybe there's been multiple resets. Maybe there's been all kinds of things that the Bible doesn't explain. And then we learned about Genesis 6 and the book of Enoch. And so when I have somebody who was once like me come to me and say, what does this mean? I'll say, I know what it means. It means giants in Nephilim, and it means angels. There was no gods. There's no aliens. They were angels posing as gods for men. And that's the story. In the Noah's flood wiped out most of the evidence. So now I have an answer for them. But if you go to a lot of brick and mortar churches, when some guy says, hey, pastor, I watch Ancient Aliens, and he's like, that's stupid. And he just cut him right off. That's dumb. There's nothing to that. And then where are they going to go? They're going to go to Gaia. Gaia is going to give them, the channel Gaia, and they're going to find answers from some new ager. So this is so in the same kind of way that if the church rejects people who are curious about our past that they believe is fraudulent, if the church turns them away, they're not going to be satisfied with that. So they're going to go find an answer from someone else.
Oh, I agree. I mean, we as Christians need answers. We need to be able to answer questions, hard questions that people ask us, because we need to be able to defend our faith, and we need to be able to give a biblical perspective answer when these issues arise. And this is the difference between, I think there's a vast difference between a conspiracy Christian and a church Christian. It's two completely different things. The world's apart, to be honest. Now, foundationally, their faith is the same. They believe in Christ, and they believe that he rose from the dead and that he is the Son of God, which is great. But when it comes to these bigger outside the Bible concepts, they're not even outside the Bible, but this is the issue. They think it is. They think that, there's no room for that. We don't talk about that kind of stuff. And it's kind of, well, you're going to have to, because the world believes it. The world believes what Ancient Aliens is telling them. The world, and they have hard questions.
Or Ancient Aliens is asking good questions that deserve answers. Their answers,
something like that, yeah.
Their answers are stupid. We need to have better answers.
Yeah, and I did find when I first discovered the little season eschatology, this was answering a lot of questions, a lot of questions. I was taking on faith originally, and it's kind of I don't need the faith anymore. We can know looking around, this is the case. This really did happen. This is where we are. This is what's going on, And as you mentioned, and talking about the idea of good fruits, I immediately saw people messaging me and sending me emails saying this has turned them to Christ. This has answered everything. This has put it all in perspective for them. And they were on the fence for so long, and this is the thing that did it, And I'm still getting messages today from people telling me, and I don't feel like I did much. It's just like a signpost. It's like an obvious answer. It's kind of we do have answers for these things. We can know what's going on. And like I said, the best answer Christians have for an alien invasion right now is the whole blue beam stuff, like you said. But what we've got now, it makes blue beam seem like an absolute stupid, just trivial event compared to what's really going on. A misdirection, a red herring, and it's kind of it's smashing down all these the lies rapidly. And like I said, the whole Genesis 6 understanding of where demons come from and what that even is. A lot of Christians will say, yeah, there's demons, and you ask them, well, where did they come from? It's they're just unclean spirits, or they're angels that went bad. It's kind of who told you that? Where did you get that? Where did that come from? It's yeah, they're unclean spirits, but where did they come from? They don't have an answer until you get into Genesis 6 and you lay it out. He said we can know exactly where they came from and why they were there and why they're still here today and what their agenda is and who they're working with. If you go and look and pay attention, it's kind of we don't read Enoch. That's for itching ears. It's kind of, what are you talking about? You go tell that to the Ethiopian Orthodox Church. It's kind of they have itching ears, but like I said, we're a different breed when it comes to conspiracy Christianity. We're not the same. It's worlds apart. And I think what the little seasons are really up against, from my observations, is the church, modern day churchianity. That's what we're really fighting against. Secular people or New Agers or whatever, like that guy laid out, they're actually all for this. And not because it proves their theories right. It doesn't. It proves Christianity right. And they're happy finally that they can contextualize it in a way that makes sense. Because the New Age doesn't make sense. It's gibberish. Like it's word salad. It's ethereal nonsense that makes them feel good with verbose language. But really, when you get down to brass tacks, what those religions and those ideologies are teaching people is it's just nonsense with a G in front, nonsense with a G. It makes no sense. It's just you are a god and go on, do what you want, basically. And it's kind of, well, now what? What do I do now with my life? And it's kind of, they have no results, no positivity, nothing good happening to them. And then we come along and say, you do know all that stuff you've discovered. Basically, it's just pointing to the fact that Christ was here for 1,000 years. And it's kind of like, oh, clicks instantly contextualizes for them.
Right.
Like I said, I've seen it because people send me the messages telling me that's what it did. And I'm like, okay, well, if it works, we got to use it. It's simple, and that's like I did with the clown stuff. It's like, it's odd. Even I don't fully understand why this is the case, but it is. I get messages from people telling me it helped them understand the demonic attacks in the past. It finally makes sense of it, and it's brought them to Christ because it contextualized it in the biblical narrative. And it's kind of, that's what we need to be doing. We don't just take every weapon and tool we can get to get people to Christ, whatever it takes in our time. And everyone's time requires something unique. And I think it's time that people learn where we are in the timeline. I think that's where we're at right now. And that's what God is moving to make sure people know. And like I said, I think we're all playing a small part in this one way or the other. And the truth will be known. Nothing that is hidden will remain hidden as far as I'm concerned. And we're just witnessing that unfold before our eyes. And yeah, it's interesting times. Extremely interesting times.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's the thing that what the people who are, who do the quick debunking videos and they want it to just go away, it's not going away. It's not going away, and it's not necessarily just because Paul and I are right and our theology is right, and our eschatology is right. The reason it's not going away is because that the stuff with the old world stuff, the mud flood stuff. Guys, I started as a TikToker. I still post stuff on TikTok. Obviously, I scroll TikTok ad nauseum sometimes to get content for JT's mixtape. There is an army of people doing boots on the ground old world research now. There is so many of them. I mean, every day I find people in my feed going to the craziest old world building in their town and talking about how it doesn't make a lick of sense.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so what is the church going to tell them? Don't believe your lying eyes? Trust me, bro. Trust the history. Trust the science. They're not going to do that. Understand me. Read my lips. They are not going to trust you. They already trust what their own eyes say, and they're saying, this does not make sense. So I would just say, if Paul and I are wrong about the little season, what do we do with that? What do we do with the old world stuff? What do we do with the mud flood evidence? What do we do? Again, this is not necessarily just old world stuff. We're talking about Roman stuff. How did Rome get buried? Like, unless you have a good answer for that, people are going to get an answer from somebody, and it might not be a good one. So I'm saying, like, over and over again, I said, this is only getting bigger. And it's getting bigger because there's many people out there who, have never been into a brick and mortar church, but they want answers. And if they're comfortable with the answer that this was the book of Revelation, praise God. Because most people do not want that answer because they don't want to turn from whatever wicked thing the wicked sin they like. So when you see that, I mean, that is a God gift. The gift from God is that somebody's heart is open to be able to receive that. Wow, it's the Bible that's true. I mean, to me, like I said, you really think about it. So I mean, I don't look a gift horse in the mouth. So there's some good seeds in those people when they're willing to come and say, you know what? I think the Jesus story is true because of this building in my town that does not make sense. And I think, like if be researched in this, because if we're wrong, I want a better answer, because I think this, in the same way I said that it made me uncomfortable in my faith to know that there was these megaliths that seem like they're outside the biblical timeline, and they're so advanced It have to be supernatural. It has to be something else. It has to be something we don't know about. So where does the Bible give answers? We find answers. In the same way, I was uncomfortable with the mud flood research for a little while because I didn't know how it fits in a premillennial worldview. If we believe that when the biblical canon ends, it's all going to end, you're going to have this backslide until the return of Christ, and then the glorious kingdom shows up. So what do you do at the time that seems more advanced than now in our, we don't even know how recent past it was, but there's evidence of it everywhere. That's the same things everyone else is asking, except for they're going to say, oh, it was the Tatarian Empire. And then there's these cyclical resets every 120 years and blah, blah, blah. The controllers are going to reset it again soon. It's a big black pill. We're all doomed. But with this idea, with the concept that we are living in the chapter of Revelation chapter 20, part of it, the little season, people say, oh gosh, this makes sense why they would lie about this. And that's what makes sense to us.
Absolutely. Like I said. And yeah, in a big way as well, we have kind of, with this idea, this community, we'll call it, it's given the answer or the rebuttal to the Tartarian people, which tend to lean antichrist. They tend to lean that way as a community than more Gnostic-based or anti-religious, anti-church-based people or group. And they've, like I said, they've been talking about resets and mud floods and cyclical destructive events and the controllers having a finger on a button at any moment type of stuff. And it's kind of, they talk about how we were advanced once and we had these beautiful buildings and so forth, completely ignoring that Jesus is on all of them, painted inside all the frescoes inside all of them, as if that doesn't exist. But they tend to lean antichrist. But luckily, like I said, what this topic seems to have done is contextualized it better. Because the problem is, like most of these, I'm going to umbrella term them New Age thought, because I think that's what they are. They come under that umbrella. If it's antichrist or it's not Christian, it usually comes under the New Age, New World Order type thought system, Gnosticism, light, shall we call it. They're a good community. Like, they've got a lot of evidence. They're really good at compiling the evidence that there was clearly a mud flood. And they've got all these old world buildings, the Antiquitech stuff. They're really good at it. So they're convincing for a while, but they don't really have solid answers as to what happened. We can give them the solid answers. We can tell you exactly why it happened, what caused it, and what the reasoning was, and where we are in the timeline now. And we can give all those answers that they can't give. They can give lots of fascinating information and evidence that something happened, but they don't know why. That's the issue with that community. And we can kind of give them the whys with the Christian biblical perspective. And that's incredible when you think about it, like that we can do that now, because they were taking over for a while. There was no pushback against their ideologies and their ideas and their understandings about human history for quite a while. And it's kind of, there was like I said, when this topic first arose with exploring Tartaria in like 2018 or something like that, around about that time, I think it was, she disappeared not long after. And it was radio silence on this topic for quite a while. Conspiracy horrors touched on it, but never really brought it up again and really focused on the old world ideas and understandings without going down the Christ route a while. And I think we revived it in the past year or two, and it's kind of come back with a vengeance. And we've had nothing but Gnostic Tartarian stuff for like 3 years prior.
Yeah.
Nothing but. And this is why I think it's making such waves, because people are exasperated with what they were offering. It's kind of like, this can't be it, seriously. Really? Is this it? A cyclical reset where all is doomed, all is hopeless, everything's terrible, and there's nothing we can do to stop it? Like, it's kind of, well, no, we can give you a better answer. We can give you hope and lead you to Christ while we're at it and give you everlasting life. What's better than that? It doesn't get much better than that, really. So.
Amen. That's actually interesting too. I've heard one criticism about the little season community is that it is so diverse, that there's so many people who are kind of on the edge of New Agey Gnostics types. But I've had to resist that temptation or that instinct in me to resist connecting with certain people, because I have this platform. I'm a Bible believing, born again Christian, and that's who I am. And so I am sometimes worried about like if I have people on here who are a little more new agey, like that worries me because I don't really want that message getting out there. But I even have like people on TikTok tagging me in videos that are not Christians. I can tell they're not Christians, but they really like the things that I'm saying really resonate with them. And sometimes it's like, the one part of me says, I got to resist kind of having any kind of connection with this person. But the other part is like that they claim they watch my YouTube channel and they like all the stuff we're talking about. And they agree with so much stuff that we're talking about. And they're recommending me to other people. And I think like, yeah, they've got some stuff wrong, right? There's a lot of them have stuff wrong. I mean, again, we might have some stuff wrong, but they've got some major issues. But they're listening now. And they're telling other people to come listen to us. And I'm like, only by the glory of God can that be taking place at all. And yeah, maybe maybe our coalition is a little bit messy right now, and that's probably okay. That's probably what it looked like, I don't know, in the times of Jesus and the apostles, right? When he's recruiting people like tax collectors and like prostitutes and people to come follow him. And the Pharisees said, oh, see, look at this bad fruit. Look at all these scumbags he's got around him. Maybe that's like us. Maybe that is like us, is that it's because it makes sense. And I think that the truth does make sense.
Yeah, well, I think a decentralized hierarchy is kind of what this community needed, because we don't want to get pigeonholed as like a cult, basically. We don't want to be seen as that, and that's not what we're trying to do. Like, I don't think there is a hierarchy to any of this, and that's not what we're going for. That's not really what any of us intended when we start talking about this thing. I mean, fundamentally, the main people talking about it, we're Christians. We believe in Jesus. We believe he is who he said he was, and we put our faith in him.
Amen.
And then we like to talk a lot and talk about ideas, so we do that. And then I think some people in the community want to make hierarchy out of what's going on. But I think the people who are talking about this, we're not looking for that. We just want to get the conversation started and get other people talking about it. And I think, like I said, it's now got to this point where it's just kind of the conversations are happening now. And I don't think this movement ever needs to evolve into fighting. Like, we put our best person against your best person type of situation. I think anyone who's trying to do that is probably looking for clout or clicks more than actually trying to get the truth out, to be honest. And that's just my personal opinion. I've always steered away from getting into that. And obviously, like I said, I don't want to talk about this topic anymore on my own channel because it's just not my focus necessarily. Like, how much more can I say? I've made like hundreds of hours on this topic. It's kind of, I'm not pigeonholing my channel to be just a little season channel. Because I'm more than that. I'm not saying it's not important. It's always going to be an undercurrent to what I do because that's what I believe is going on. But I feel like what's hype today will be old news in a year, and it'll be accepted old news in a year. And then where do we go from there? Type of thing. There's plenty more to be discussing while we're at it. So that's kind of my philosophy. Because my channel is understanding conspiracies. It's not understanding little season. So I can't be so specific, but it got me for a year for a very good reason. It's true as far as I'm concerned, and it's a huge part of the puzzle piece, a big answer to a lot of things. I call it the bottom of the rabbit hole, shall we say? But on my channel, I'm gonna do other things and leave my body of work there for people to find on that topic while talking about other topics. But this is the wonderful thing about the community. I don't have to make any more videos about it because people are doing it for us now.
It's growing. It's growing for sure.
It's wonderful. It's great to see, and I love seeing it.
Yeah. Well, I think that's the thing. It's like here's a good example of it. Is today is that I watched the Lego Movie with my kids, and then I said, "Hey, look at that! This looks familiar. This looks like something we've been talking about for the past year." And yeah, I mean, I'm the same way. I feel like that your eschatology is a framework for how you kind of see the world. So you can't it's part of me now. Unless I get better evidence that something else is going on, that I see the stuff that I'm interested in based on, what the past really was and what the future could look like. So that's what this channel is, and that's what it probably will always be. And yeah, I think, but I do actually think for people in this community, and I'm sure, I mean, I'm not telling Paul anything new, is that we have had Vitaly on again, and we were talking about the Book of Enoch. And I really liked a video that Vitaly did probably almost a year ago, and he was talking about being able to be a good witness for people. And he was talking about having like just well-rounded knowledge about things and being able to explain things. And you think about it like a person like Job in the book of Job, that he was a wise man and people would come to him with questions, and they would, that when somebody who is a little bit confused about things, if they can come talk to you and you kind of frame it in a way that's explainable, then yeah, you're a good witness to that person, because you're calm, you got the fruits of the Spirit, and you can kind of, you're worldly, and you also understand the spiritual component of things. And I think that is really what we're trying to do, and I think that's just things that I'm just interested in. Like I like things to make sense. So yeah, I'm not going to figure it all out, but I don't want to ever be so stuck on like one subject to try to be an expert of one thing where I'm blind to all this other stuff. That's why I'm always kind of like, I know a little bit about a lot, and I want to know more about a lot, and I want to know more about it, so it all fits together and we can kind of explain it. But yeah, this is obviously a gigantic piece. This is part of like knowing how the puzzle fits together. So yeah, that's pretty much all I got to say, is that if you in this community, especially if people now, I mean, a lot of people do now tag me in their videos, and they're making videos. I love it. I was actually teasing on this last JT's mixtape. If you guys make short videos, I mean, when I say short, I mean like 2 minutes or less. If you guys make little season videos, I'm going to start making a segment on JT's mixtape where I try to promote some small creators who are making videos that I find interesting, that are making good points. Don't make them too long, otherwise they won't make it on the cut. But if they're short and they're condensed and they're good, I will try to feature some of those things, because I do want the next generation of people who are listening, they're doing their own research, to start, taking the ball and running with it. Because Paul and I, we are going to talk about this when it's relevant, and when it's not relevant, we're going to talk about other things, because that's what we do. We talk about everything. So I would say that if you already kind of are advanced in this subject, broaden your horizons and see how it all makes fits. Go try to revisit other things like the Lego movie, perhaps, and see if with this new lens, you see some different things. And so that's my encouragement to people, is just to keep learning, keep researching. The truth always comes back to Jesus, and make sure that is the focus, because if it's not for that, then why are we even here?
Exactly. Yeah, I agree.
Well, Paul, it was awesome having you. I'm sorry to the audience that I advertised a small Q&A, and I think I did that last time, and I don't think I got to it. But if next week I'm by myself, I will make sure I get to the Q&A. Maybe I'll even come back through the old Q&A. But I will try to look at the questions, and I'll try to bring some good research to that. But Paul, do you have anything else you want to close with? I know that you mentioned earlier on for the people, we got about 600 people in here now. Tell them what you're working on and what you just released.
Yeah, so on my channel right now, you'll find I'm focusing more on spiritual warfare aspect of things. If you want little season stuff, there's like a big playlist that I've done over the year there. But right now, I'm really focusing on my body of work on the Nephilim Look Like Clowns. And I've just released a new episode for the series on the Royal Order of the Jesters, a secret society, which is probably the worst thing you've ever heard of when you actually look into what those guys get up to. But I've also just released an audiobook version of my book on the topic. So there's a full series on YouTube you can watch, all visuals, all there, all free. But there's also a book you can read, which kind of compiles all the information into dry facts with, everything to back it up, basically. But I've just read the book. I've got a full audio book available on Audible now for that, if you want to go check that out. And come over to my channel if you want to get into some weird meta commentary on the truther movement, the truther therapy sessions, what it is to wake up and to have friends and family reject you, all that kind of stuff. You can find that over on my channel. And again, I've got my weekly shows, my own version of JT's mixtape on a Wednesday, my live Q&As, where I again fail to answer many questions, so I know the feeling. But I tend to give a presentation on there about the current events and what's going on as well, and like my take on AI and things like that. So there's plenty on my channel to go and check out if you're interested.
Yeah, excellent. Yeah, absolutely. If you guys, I mean, I'm sure Paul is a celebrity in these circles, so probably most of my audience knows him. But if you do not know Paul from Understanding Conspiracy, please, I tagged him in the title.